what they call the prosperity gospel actually is an American brand of a gospel that was drawn out of what we call the American dream.
Okay.
The American dream is a dream of an ideal life where you have a home, you have a wife, you have kids, you have a car, you have some money, and you're comfortable. The American dream. So the American preachers took that American dream and plucked scriptures out of context, which is immoral, and used it to back the American dream and marketed it to the world as the prosperity gospel. And in that shade of the American dream gospel, they now paint God as a transactional God, which is a character assassination on God's character.
Absolutely.
They make it look like God can never do something for you till you give him a bribe.
Come on.
God can never do something for you till you massage him with a little bit of money. Even prayer, he will not answer till you add some money to move God.
Hey.
You know, some people will even say, until you sweat it out, you cannot sweet it in. Then they will say it has to pain you for you to gain out of it. Then they will say things like, until you sweat it out, you can't have the refreshing, because they use the laws of geography. You have to sweatation, for you to create evaporation that produces cloudation that will come back to you as raination. And they come with all kinds of coinages just to wow the minds of gullibles, people who are not truly educated in scripture. Then they pluck scriptures out of context. For example, they'll give you a scripture like Luke 6:38. Give and it shall be given. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, shall men give to your bosom. Then they'll tell you, if you don't give, you cannot get. I was in Ghana preaching. I went to preach for a guy, and the guy was insisting I must be in the service. And I said, no, I just flew in. I'm tired. Let me rest. I'm not preaching today. And he says, no, you must be in the service. My spiritual father is preaching today. I need you to sit down and listen to my spiritual father. I said, I hope you know what you're bargaining for. All right, I'm going to come. So I got into the service, and the way they sit in that church, all pastors sit on the pulpit, while the audience sits in the congregation to face the pastors. So they brought me and they put me in the spotlight, and I'm sitting here. And now it will be difficult for me to leave. That's the point. So I'm sitting, the pastor begins to preach this prosperity madness. And by that time, I was done and gone with all of that. And then I was getting irritated because I can't stand that whole lies and that scam. And the guy now began to say that there are 4 dimensions of prosperity. And you cannot get into any of them until you do the needful. The first dimension is good measure. The second one is pressed down. The third one is shaking together. The fourth one is running over. And each one, he created a demand for money for you to move from one to another. But watch this. This is what pissed me off in that whole service. This guy is a big guy. His name is not all over the world. I don't want to call names. And then he now said, do you know that even lions pay tithe? If you don't pay tithe, lions are better than you. He's preaching. And he's saying all these kind of things. So in my mind, I went like, lions pay tithe? I've read the Bible. I've never seen that. Wow, let me hear this revelation. Then the guy said, you know, when Daniel was in the lion's den, and then, you know, the lions were to eat him because they were hungry. But they said, no, let's give Daniel to God as tithe. We will not eat him. And believe God for God to multiply more Daniels for us to eat. And at that time, I just said, you are lying. I couldn't hide it. I said, you are lying. Then I realized I'm not the one preaching. It would be rude to keep. I wanted to stand up and get the mic from him because I'm also a speaker. But then I'm not the host. So I looked at the host and I said, I got to go. I'm going to scatter your service. I got to go. So he got some protocol guys to sneak me out, and I left that service. And I came the next day and I opened the scriptures and I began to teach them the truth concerning Christ. And you could see the hunger in their faces as if they have never read the scriptures before. That's the wickedness that gospel called prosperity gospel produces. Now, that scripture in Luke 6 is not talking about give so that God can give to you. Jesus was making a contrast in his teaching. The book of Luke is a book of contrast, where he contrasts what the Father is as vis-a-vis what men are. So he was talking about that with God, he gives to the thankful and the unthankful. He gives to those who qualify and to those who don't qualify. He makes the rain to fall on the good and on the bad. He makes the sun to shine on the good and on the bad. He said, but when it comes to men, you must give for men to give to you. But with God, you don't have to give for God to give to you. So he was making a contrast. Then the church now left the part of where Jesus spoke about the Father, how the Father gives, and they zeroed in on just that one verse of scripture. Now remember that the way Satan operates when he wants to quote the scriptures is he quotes it out of context.
Yes.
So once a preacher is quoting a scripture out of context, it becomes an extension of Satan's ministry.